into the crowd at the side of the road, killing 4 and injuring 31.
Group B. Often considered the golden age of the World Rally Championship, its short life of 5 years served as a testament. However, this category is also a perfect example of how a frontier is formed not by progress, but rather the dire consequences. Etched on the gravestone of Group B are many names, but the memory of how it paved the future of rallying will not be forgotten. In 1982, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, or FIA, revised the document Appendix J, replacing the former Group 1 and 2 classes with 3 new lettered classes, Group N, A, and B. And while both Groups N and B were intended for large-scale production vehicles, the FIA took a very different approach with Group B. While the entries of Group A and N vastly resembled the thousands of production units they required to manufacture, the entries of Group B were absolutely nothing of the sort. Manufacturers taking an interest in the class were only required to build 200 road-legal production units of the vehicle being homologated, a mere fraction of the requirements of other classes. This of course meant that manufacturers were very much allowed to experiment with chassis that practically did not exist outside of the class otherwise. However, as this naturally shifted the focus from production quality to experimentation and pure performance, the level of safety inherently dropped. While general safety requirements such as seatbelt and extinguisher regulations were in place for all classes, Group B lacked the specialized anecdotes that Group A and Group N sported volumes of. This, of course, did not stop manufacturers from producing lightweight, performance-focused frames with little impact dampening. And despite the structural rigidity of the entries being practically compromised, this in no way prevented the manufacturers from squeezing as much performance out of them as physically possible. So by the mid-segment of the class's lifespan, entries are producing upwards of 400 to 500 horsepower, weigh in at a ton or less, and have little to no structural rigidity or safety precautions outside of what is absolutely required. This causes a lot of accidents. And Group B was not a stranger to accidents. Finnish driver Henri Toivonen, who piloted the Peugeot 205 T16 introduced in the 1984 season, had accumulated a reputation of crashing out before finishing a stage. It is only in 1985, however, when Toivonen would be seriously injured as a result, when in Argentina he rolls off the course as his seat mountings come loose in the ensuing crash. However, it is only after another incident occurs in the same year that the safety of Group B is called into question. In the fourth leg of the 1985 Tour de Corsa, Italian driver Attilio Bettega lost control of his Delta 037 and plummeted off the course and into a dense forest surrounding the track. While his co-driver miraculously walked away unharmed, a tree branch had punctured the windshield of the vehicle during the accident, killing Bettega instantly. Bettega's death inherently raised some questions. Was Group B simply too powerful and dangerous to exist? Unfortunately, there was no time to answer, as the 1986 World Rally Championship season, the last of the Group B era, was just around the corner. And it is here that everything goes wrong. The eventful 1986 season brings into light a new threat to the safety of rallying: spectators. Because many Group B stages often incorporated public roads and rural populated areas, onlookers were free to roam around as they pleased, even with high-performance race cars speeding by and sliding through corners. Of course, this would only remain a game to the spectators until it inevitably goes too far. At the 1986 Portugal Rally, onlookers lined the entire course in crowds, some even spilling onto the road. However, policemen stationed nearby do not intervene.
Still, the police look on, but don't really do very much about the spectator control.
As crowd control becomes more and more minimal, the co-driver of Portuguese driver Joaquim Santos begins to grow concerned. The road was completely packed. There were people, and people, and people. When Joaquim came out of the right-hand corner, one guy steps into the tarmac, so he has to make a correction. And when he made the correction and tried to come back to normal, the rear of the car went. He lost it.
Along would have been Joaquim Santos, but he loses control of the Ford RS200 and ploughs into the crowd at the side of the road, killing 4 and injuring 31.
This tragic incident, the first to ever involve even close to as many bystanders, finally awakened the drivers and manufacturers to the damage that continuing the class would cause. Well-known Finnish prodigy Henri Toivonen articulated an agreement to suspend the Portugal Rally, garnering the signatures of many involved.
The reasons that all the undersigned drivers do not wish to continue with the Portuguese Rally are as follows. First, as a mark of respect for the families of the dead people and for those injured. Two,
even after all that has occurred so far, only now is the notion finally being realized. Group B is too dangerous to exist. In May of 1986, Henri Toivonen had continued to pilot the Delta S4 in the Tour de Corse Rally on the French island of Corsica. After the first leg on the 1st of May, Toivonen had been quoted saying, "This rally is insane, even though everything is going well at the moment. If there's trouble, for sure, I am completely finished." And indeed, unfortunately, there was trouble. The following day, during the 18th stage, Toivonen was the pace setter for the competition and was bound to place well, if not claim one of the top spots in the results. However, over 7 kilometers in, Toivonen lost control of the S4 and flew off the edge of a tightening left turn, plummeting into a sea of trees. Because the Tour de Corse stages were mostly pure asphalt and roads, the gasoline tank fitted to the S4 did not feature a skid pad for protection, as did several other cars. As a result, the fuel tank had been struck and ruptured by the trees in the ensuing crash, leading to an explosion which decimated the vehicle and the surrounding landscape. Onlookers and radio crew at the event frantically searched for help as they witnessed the tragedy before them. Despite their best efforts to reach them, Henri Toivonen and his co-driver Sergio Cresto had burned in their seats, unable to escape. After this final incident, Group B was put to a close. Directly replacing Group B and A was the 1997 FIA World Rally Car classification, which stood for several decades until its replacement in 2022. This class would harbor several drivers of international fame, including the late Colin McRae and Ken Block. The closing of the Group B era, and the mistakes learned from its many tragedies, paved the way for a new frontier of safer, more enjoyable rallying motorsports. Entries of the modern day, and even the classes that directly replaced Group B, were far more oriented towards the safety of the driver and all involved in the WRC program. More safety precautions are taken in both the design and regulations of modern competing vehicles, and spectators no longer line the course and prove a safety hazard. And despite all of the advancements towards this goal, some still choose to remember the golden days of rallying. The class continues to see influence in the modern era despite its tragic story. This is the undying legacy of Group B.